Gear 1. Monkey D. Luffy's base state is often retroactively referred to as Gear 1, even though it is never named that in the story. This form represents Luffy using the natural properties of his rubber body without any artificial acceleration, inflation, or Haki-based amplification. After eating the Gomu Gomu no Mi, Luffy's muscles, bones, and organs permanently gained the elastic properties of rubber, allowing him to stretch, compress, and rebound without structural damage. The core advantage of this form is elasticity-driven force generation. When Luffy pulls a limb back, he stores elastic potential energy, similar to a stretched slingshot. Releasing that tension converts stored energy into kinetic force, which is why attacks like Gomu Gomu no Rifle hit far harder than a normal punch despite using no external power-up. This same elasticity also grants blunt force damage resistance, as impacts are absorbed and dispersed rather than transferred directly to his internal organs. Defensively, rubber physiology makes Luffy naturally resistant to bullets, blunt strikes, and shock-based attacks. Because rubber does not conduct electricity, lightning-based abilities are mostly ineffective against him. A property that becomes strategically important in later arcs. However, this form has clear vulnerabilities. Sharp attacks can cut rubber, and armament Haki bypasses elasticity by striking the body's true substance, making trained opponents extremely dangerous even without overwhelming physical strength. In terms of combat versatility, base form Luffy relies entirely on creativity and physics rather than raw amplification. This form establishes the mechanical foundation for every later gear: elasticity for power storage, rebound for movement, and creative manipulation of physics rather than traditional martial strength. Gear 2. Luffy first activates Gear 2 by exploiting a unique biological advantage of his rubber physiology: elastic blood vessels. Instead of inflating his body, Luffy uses the rubber in his legs as a pump, forcibly accelerating blood flow throughout his entire circulatory system. This dramatically increases the rate at which oxygen and nutrients reach his muscles, pushing his physical output far beyond normal human limits. For a normal person, this level of circulation would rupture veins and destroy organs. Luffy's rubber anatomy prevents that failure. His arteries stretch rather than tear, allowing sustained high-pressure blood flow. The result is an explosive increase in speed, reaction time, and striking power. Visually, this manifests as a reddish skin tone and constant steam venting from his body, caused by extreme metabolic heat and moisture loss during accelerated movement. In combat, Gear 2 fundamentally changes how Luffy fights. His movements become fast enough to overwhelm opponents who previously outclassed him, including users of advanced movement techniques. Attacks executed in Gear 2 carry significantly higher momentum, meaning even standard punches deal amplified damage due to increased velocity. This allows Luffy to break through defensive techniques that rely on durability rather than evasion. Gear 2 carries serious physical costs. Pre-time skip usage rapidly exhausted Luffy and placed extreme strain on his body, with implications that prolonged use could shorten his lifespan. After extensive training, Luffy learned to activate Gear 2 instantly and apply it selectively to individual limbs rather than his entire body. This refinement reduced stamina drain while preserving the speed advantage, transforming Gear 2 from a risky burst technique into a sustainable combat tool. Gear 3. Luffy activates Gear 3 by biting into his thumb and blowing air directly into his skeletal structure. Because his bones are made of rubber, they expand instead of cracking, inflating to giant proportions. This turns specific limbs or entire sections of his body into oversized, dense weapons capable of delivering extreme blunt force impact. Unlike Gear 2, which increases power through speed, Gear 3 increases power through mass. When a Gear 3 punch lands, the damage comes from the combination of enormous surface area and increased weight behind the strike. This allows Luffy to destroy large structures, overwhelm durable opponents, and apply a wide area force that smaller, faster attacks cannot replicate. The technique is especially effective against enemies that rely on size or raw toughness rather than mobility. Early use of Gear 3 came with severe drawbacks. Inflating a single limb threw off Luffy's balance, making his movements slower and more predictable. After the air dispersed, his body temporarily shrank into a drastically reduced form, leaving him physically weak and unable to fight. The duration of this vulnerability scaled directly with how long Gear 3 was used, turning the technique into a high-risk option. Through training, Luffy eliminated most of these limitations. He learned to distribute air more efficiently and stabilize his body during inflation, removing the post-use shrinking effect. When combined with armament Haki, Gear 3 attacks gain armor-piercing capability, allowing giant blows to bypass defenses that raw size alone could not overcome. If Gear 3 just showed you how Luffy turned raw size into controlled destruction, hit subscribe, like the video, and share it with a crewmate, and smash the hype button if it's there so YouTube stops sleeping on peak explanations. Gear 4. Luffy developed Gear 4 after intensive survival training to solve a specific limitation. Earlier gears boosted only one parameter at a time. Gear 4 combines elasticity, muscle inflation, and armament Haki into a single system. Luffy bites into his arm, inflates his muscles rather than his bones, and compresses that mass using full-body armament Haki. This creates a dense, spring-loaded physique that stores and releases force continuously. The defining mechanic of Gear 4 is elastic compression. Air-inflated muscles want to expand, while Haki hardening resists that expansion. The opposing forces generate constant internal pressure. Every movement releases stored energy explosively, producing extreme speed, power, and recoil-based mobility. Because his body is always under tension, Luffy cannot stand still in most forms and instead bounces, launches, or redirects himself through the air. Boundman is the balanced form. It maximizes raw power and mobility by concentrating mass in the upper body, while maintaining elastic rebound across the entire frame. Attacks can change direction mid-flight because compressed rubber limbs retain stored force after extension. Defensively, most blunt attacks rebound off the Haki-coated elasticity rather than penetrating it, allowing Luffy to absorb and redirect damage instead of blocking it conventionally. Tankman is a defensive specialization. Force! By further increasing mass and elasticity, Luffy converts incoming force into amplified counterattacks. This form sacrifices speed to become a pressure-absorbing wall, reflecting enemy attacks back with multiplied impact. It is situational, but demonstrates that Gear 4 is modular rather than static. Snakeman prioritizes speed and tracking. Muscle inflation is distributed to maximize limb acceleration rather than mass concentration. Attacks accelerate continuously and curve unpredictably, striking from multiple angles in rapid succession. This form compensates for opponents with high-level evasion or future sight by overwhelming reaction time rather than raw durability. The cost of Gear 4 is exhaustion. Once the form ends, Luffy temporarily loses the ability to use Haki for approximately 10 minutes. He can still move and fight, but without Haki amplification or defense. This limitation forces Gear 4 to function as a decisive phase rather than a sustained state, demanding precise timing and strategic commitment. Gear 5. Gear 5 is not a refinement of Luffy's earlier gears, but the full awakening of his devil fruit. When his heart beats in the rhythm of the drums of liberation, his body transforms completely, turning white, becoming vastly more elastic, and breaking free from normal biological limits. This form is the awakening of the Hito Hito no Mi, model Nika, a mythical Zoan defined by absolute freedom in combat. The fundamental change introduced by Gear 5 is environmental interaction. Previous gears modified only Luffy's body. Gear 5 allows him to impart rubber-like properties to his surroundings. The ground, structures, and even energy-based attacks can be treated as elastic objects. This enables Luffy to deflect attacks by rebounding them, reshape terrain mid-fight, and weaponize the battlefield itself. His power is no longer directional, it becomes spatial. Physically, Gear 5 vastly amplifies Luffy's elasticity beyond natural limits. His body can stretch, compress, flatten, or expand with no visible strain, allowing extreme size manipulation and deformation without loss of strength. These movements are not symbolic or stylistic. They are functional. Elastic recoil replaces traditional footwork, and exaggerated motion translates directly into force output. Attacks gain power through freedom of form rather than mass or speed alone. A defining feature of Gear 5 is behavioral transformation. While active, Luffy displays constant laughter, exaggerated expressions, and an almost performative approach to combat. This is not merely personality bleed-through. It reflects the fruit's core concept. Nika is described as a figure who fights in a way that brings smiles to others, and Gear 5 externalizes that ideal. Gear 5 also blurs established Devil Fruit classifications. Luffy retains Zoan transformation traits while simultaneously exhibiting Paramecia-style awakening effects on the environment. This duality makes the fruit mechanically unique within the system. Rather than enhancing a single stat, Gear 5 removes structural constraints entirely, allowing Luffy to invent techniques spontaneously without predefined limits. Despite its apparent freedom, Gear 5 is not limitless. The form consumes extreme stamina and places heavy strain on Luffy's body. Prolonged use visibly exhausts him, and recovery is required to re-enter the state. The power ceiling of Gear 5 is not fixed. Its effectiveness scales with imagination, creativity, and mental endurance rather than physical conditioning alone.